I'll jump in. So my name is Andrew. I am part of the education team here at RISE. Really excited to have this conversation today between youth that RISE has worked with in various communities, high school organizations, and Officer Norwood, who I've known for close to 10 years and I've worked very closely with at Detroit PAL. So really excited to have this conversation today. Thank you for being here. Maybe we have Officer Norwood, you go next, introducing yourselves, and then we'll have the youth.
Right, good. Yeah, Officer Norwood here, Detroit Police Department. I'm out of the Chief's office, Chief Neighborhood Liaison, directly assigned to Detroit Police Athletic League, where we work with youth. So I've been an officer for over 30 years, and I've been assigned to work with youth the last 15 years as well. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Who wants to go next?
I'm Amarea Bradford. I attend Jalen Rose Leadership Academy, and I am a Detroit Police Explorer. Been in that for 6 years now.
Excellent. Go ahead, Barbara.
Detroit Edison Public School Academy. I work with the Detroit Police Force. I've been with it for like 4 years, I think. Yeah, 4 years. And yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Elyse?
I'm Elyse Narbit. I go to Saline High School, and I don't have anything cool like Barbara or Maria, but that's it.
Excellent. Yeah, and I'm excited to have this conversation. Thank you all for joining us. The purpose of the conversation, like I said, is twofold. One, we want to talk about bias generally. That's the topic that we will be exploring as a part of our digital learning series. But more specifically, with a lot of what's taking place in the country right now, we also wanted to have a more specific conversation about the ways in which bias play into what's taking place with police brutality and some of the protests and activism that's taking place across the country. So I want to start the conversation maybe by saying, how would you define bias? What does bias mean to you? How would you define it? Maybe let's start there.
So bias is, for me, is partially of just having a preconceived idea about a certain group or certain groups of people. It doesn't necessarily have to be people, but you have this preconceived notion based upon your own personal experiences of how you perceive things to be, whether it's true or not. That's, for me, that's the basic definition of having a bias.
Yeah, I agree with him. I think it's like when people get treated a certain way because of who they're connected to. Like you said, like he looked like if one person do something, they look at the whole group like they are like that. I agree with Officer Norwood.
I would say like the same exact thing. It's just an opinion formed on not necessarily like facts. It's just formed on what you see going around, and it's like where you group a whole group together, whether it's people or something else. It's just like a preconceived notion.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I think you are spot on. Bias is about that preconceived notion. I guess, this might be a rhetorical or maybe an obvious question, but really curious to hear your thoughts and your responses to this. Why is bias problematic? And maybe more specifically, why is it problematic given what's been taking place in the country right now in terms of protests and racism and calls to end police brutality?
I think like bias is so active because once, for example, the police. Like once a police officer does something, they think the whole police neighborhood or the whole police community is like that. Just never give the police a chance because of what they see. They always think that all the police are like that, but from experience, they're not. So, yeah.
I would say even the same thing with protests. Like the news covers a lot more protests that turn into like riots, like necessarily like turn more violent. But in reality, people are peacefully protesting, and like again, people are making bias like, oh, all protests now turned into riots and something like dangerous when that's just not true.
Yeah. So bias can play a role. We have to be very conscious of accepting one side. So when it comes to media, media, their main job is to get viewers. So they want those likes, those clicks and things like that. So they'll report whatever scenario or that they're trying to perceive, that they're trying to get out to there. So if it's all cops are this way or all protesters are this way, and then that's the story that they will try to push it forward to their viewers. But when it comes to biases, we have to make sure that we have enough information just to have an educated opinion on what's going on and not get all our information from just one side, which could lead to unfair biases.
I can agree with Officer Norwood on that because I feel like a lot of people are biased on certain things because, for example, a lot of people don't like police because of what goes on, and them being stopped by police or dealing with police or seeing them, they're angry at them because of what someone else did. That can, like, for example, with the George Floyd incident, that happened in a whole different state. So now you have all these people angry and not liking police because of this happened in this state. So now they're deciding to just protest and destroy things and mess up their own city because of something that happened in a different state. I say, like, if that didn't happen in your state, you shouldn't be destroying things, or you should be angry with the police because your department. I feel like bias is a really messed up thing because a lot of people don't really are not educated on it, or they don't know what happened from start to finish. So they going off one side but not listening to or know about the other.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, he was saying, like, we don't know how we're messing up our city because something that happened in the other state. But I feel like, even though it happened all the way in Minneapolis, we should all come together as a community. Like, not even just white people, for the other races that support our move. I feel like that's needed. Like, even though it happened all the way out there, and I haven't seen a PD officer kill nobody, off racism or nothing. I mess with the police heavy here, but I really think that if we just come together, even if it's not happening in our city, if we get the police on our side, even though half of the time they is on our side out here, if we just all come together everywhere, that they hear us, because we've been going through this for a long time. And even though it's not happening to our loved ones, that is somebody's loved one, and all Black people try to get by the police. So, if we all come together, whether it's in Minneapolis or Michigan or California, we should all come together as a community.
I would say that was very well said. I'm just commenting on what she said. Both of them, Mr. Bradford as well. So I'm interested to see what Elyse has to say.
Well, I completely agree with Barbara. Like, I think that, like, strength in numbers, like, always works, and, like, this coming together, like, that's, like, what's most important. Because if, like, so what, it didn't happen in our town, that doesn't mean that it couldn't, like, for example. And I just think that showing awareness and, like, the whole country uniting together, and, like, police force with just, like, citizens, like, to show that not everybody has these, like, biases, I think that's just so important.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you all have raised that I think is important to think and talk about is that, hey, these things happened in different areas, and so context might matter because it might be different, but in some ways, and I think Barbara and Elyse are speaking to this, in some ways it might be the same. And so us coming together is important. So one of the things that I wondered about, two things really, is one, what are maybe some of the biases that exist, on law enforcement side and maybe even on the community side, that we should try to address and fix? And then two, do they look different in a place like Minneapolis, where most of the officers might be white, versus a place like Detroit, where we have a large percentage of, like, Black police officers? So just thoughts around that.
Well, so as we all know, police work can be very, very difficult. It's highly stressful. Make no mistake about that. And we signed up for that. So that's fine. So some of the ways that biases can happen from the police side is if you're in a certain area and the certain area is known for certain criminal activity, that bias can lead towards most of the people in that community are probably doing something unlawful. And so a lot of police officers act accordingly. But make no mistake about it, there's no excuse for mistreating anyone, regardless of what your biases were prior to that. And again, I believe a lot of our biases, a lot of people's biases are based upon previous experience and the information that they receive individually and how they process that information. So as we come across a high percentage of people that are not necessarily your best citizens, we still have to be mindful that not everyone is a criminal, not everyone is doing criminal activity. And I think that the main thing that we're seeing around the country is the de-escalation part, which I can speak on a little bit later. But as far as biases, when you're around negativity a lot, sometimes that plays a major role in police officers' lives as they're doing their performing their duties. They tend to think a lot of people may be up to no good, and that's not always the case.
You asked about a bias that is well known with the police. They think that police always kills people, like all police. And Black lives do matter, but the police don't only kill Black people. They don't only kill Black people. I seen a video the other day. The man had a BB gun, and he was white, and they killed him. And it was a whole video. No need to explain what I'm saying. It is good for us to stand up because we do get killed more than any other race. But I think that they abuse their power a lot. But not all police officers. So I think a bias that is well known and that's up and moving is that police kills people for no reason, or they're dangerous.
Yeah.
They're not protecting us.
Yeah. And one thing, again, make no excuse for any misconduct by any police officer. But I spoke a little bit earlier about how we gain some of our biases. The officers that I know, and I know myself, and I know the majority of officers around Detroit and around the country do some really amazing and incredible things. And they really put their lives online every day. But none of that gets put on the news. That's not some of your main articles. That's not some of your headlines, anything like that, because no one wants to see someone just doing their job. That's not news, correct? And so they highlight those small instances where a bad decision might have been made by a police officer, or incorrect decision, or not a popular decision. Those are the things that get highlighted. And so it's easy to develop a bias based upon those few incidents that happen that's presented to you. So I agree with what you said, Barbara. Most of the time, officers are doing the right thing, if that's kind of what you were leading to. We just have to be conscious of that. We don't necessarily see the good things. And again, I'm not making any excuse for any bad decision, but as we know, bad decisions, negativity seem to stick in our mind a little bit more than those positive things. Someone wants to just see somebody just doing their job. Yeah, you're supposed to do that, right?
I agree with you. They don't never show police, but all people, they don't ever show when they do good. They only show when they fall. And y'all human. Y'all can get attitude. Y'all can get hostile with somebody. Y'all human. But when me working with the Explorers, I have seen a lot of good deeds by the police officers. And that's why, I don't agree with the bias. I don't think that all police are bad, all police are racist. I don't agree with it at all. And I see the good that y'all do because I work with y'all.
Well, thank you.
Actually, I almost actually had, I almost for real did not want to become a police officer. It was when I was way younger. An incident happened with a family member of mine. I didn't like the way how stuff is treated. So the opportunity for me to join the Explorers program came about a year after. And I joined the Explorers program, and the officers and stuff was amazing. So I somewhat wanted to come back to being a police officer. And then another video popped up of another incident involving a white officer and a black civilian. And I think it was here in Michigan. I think it was Inkster, or it was one of those cities. I can't remember the city, but that had popped up, and I didn't really understand what was happening in the video, and the video didn't have no volume for me to hear or know what was going on. And it was a Wednesday, and it was the day of a meeting of our Explorer meetings, and it was a Wednesday, and I was sitting in the kitchen watching it, and there was a white officer right next to me. So I asked him, I said, "How do you feel about the video, or what is your preface on the video, like, what do you think about it? Do you think the officer was wrong or the civilian? And he said that he can't really speak on it because there's not no audio of what's going on, and that there's the video is not start to finish. It's not starting off what happened, and it's not showing what how it ended for real. So when he said that to me, I kind of said like, oh well, yeah, I can't just judge off of what I'm seeing. I have to see from what started it and how it ended, and from now on, I've actually looked at almost every law enforcement video or that's involving an officer having to put or use lethal force or having to put their hands on someone. I've always looked at videos that way, like if it's storm start to finish, and at the end of the video, I'll say to myself who was wrong in the situation or who I think was wrong, and then from the videos I watched police YouTubers and they explain the videos. So I really picked it up off of me just learning how police work and then knowing how people are. And I always I use from the information that I know to judge a video or a situation. And then I've met a lot of cool and nice officers that look mean, but they're for real cool and fun and chill to hang around with. So that's why I stayed in the program for as many years as I am, and I do plan on continuing to stay with the program as long as I can.
Well said. Any thoughts, Elyse?
I was just gonna say again, as Officer Norwood has like been mentioning, it's just like what the media decides to cover, and I think that's really cool. How you were just talking about like how you like are watching it from beginning to like end to like see like the true story of it, because like again, just media covers what they want to get the best story, get the most viewers out of it. So I think it's just important to take a step back and look at the whole thing.
How do we approach bias? Because I think what you all shared is accurate and it's real. That one, some of the footage we see don't capture the entire context. So that's one. Two, that we have officers, we have good officers. A lot of them doing what they're supposed to do, working hard, making some hard choices and hard decisions. I think Norwood alluded to this, YouTube Barbara, and I'll certainly state as well, there are instances where we have bad actors and potentially even some systems that we need to kind of take a look at and see how we could improve them. But where do we start in your minds to overcome some of these biases that might exist on the law enforcement side and perhaps also on the community side, as we try to move forward out of this specific incident that's taken place, and then in general. So just thoughts around that.
I feel like the way to approach bias is that from both sides, I feel like that training for law enforcement, they should be trained on how to deal with certain things that they're dealing with, such as people that have a mental illness, people that are hyped up on drugs, or people like, I feel like they should have a training on almost everything that they might bump into or that they most commonly bump into. And then for the civilians out there, I feel like people should be more active with their department and knowing the officers that patrol the neighborhoods they live in and see how their job works. Because I was told by one of my advisors for always know what the person above you job is, and if you don't, then you're gonna get bumped over the entire time. And I'm saying that because as a civilian, you should always know the people in your neighborhood, what their job is and what they're supposed to do. And then as an officer, you should always know how your community works and who they are.
I agree with him. I think the civilians should be more open-minded to the police and not, like, I know it's hard because before I started working with the police, I never want to used to go to work with my godmama because she worked with the police, like she a police officer. But I had to become more open-minded, like not everybody like that. Like everybody has a different personality no matter what their job is. And so I think that we should be more open-minded as a community and at least give the police officers a chance in our community because, why not? And I think the police, I think what really helps is when they march with us or come together with us, like for the videos that I've seen, like in Flint or like downtown. I think that really helps when you show the community that I'm here with you. We're going to walk it out together. I think that really helps. So I think that most of the police is doing everything they can to show us that, we together. We're not against y'all. So I think that it really helps.
It's definitely like a two-way street. Like, definitely you need to see like the citizens to be more open-minded with the police department, and then also the police department, as Barbara was talking about, like you see them like also like taking part of these protests, and like you see them being peaceful as well. And it's just like stuff like that, it just makes it click, and you see those like biases being broken by some people, because people are like, you know what, actually this is like something I've never seen before, but they are like getting along and they're working together.
I really like what you said about the training. So in my opinion, I think why Detroit has not had a lot of the problems that other cities had, because we get constant training about biases and different things. You mentioned something about like mental health. We have a lot of trainings, and I really believe Detroit is being proactive with our training. It also helps to know a lot about the community you serve, the different cultures and subcultures of your community. So training is one way as far as we're talking about biases from the police perspective. Another one is just this conversation that we're having right here, right now. Just having conversations with the public, with the citizens, with our youth is a tremendous value. Even when the protesters were out there, they wanted to speak and they had their demands. Our chief led the way, Chief Craig led the way with that dialogue. He was like, sure, we love to hear what you have to say. And I know other chiefs and other police departments that's not necessarily their first thought. They want to restore order and tell everyone where to go and where to be and that nature. We say, you know what, you guys have a concern. We want to hear you. Let's pick a time and place to hear your concerns. So I think that's two good things. The dialogue, the training, and the final one, which I'm a part of myself, is more community relations. So having programs like the Police Athletic League, the Explorers program, things of that nature, where you interact with the police, not necessarily in a police state, but just as people, learning each other's likes, dislikes, again, their cultures, their concerns. When you feel like you're more part of the community, you're probably going to have less problems between the police and its citizens. So for me, that's what's really key, just understanding and learning your community and learning their concerns, because the police can't arrest all of the problems away. That's really not what we're here for. We're not just here to just start writing tickets and locking up people. We're here to make solutions, to come up with solutions for the community, what's best for everybody. But you guys gave some really good answers. So that's, I think from a police perspective, it's just understanding the community needs.
I agree with him. Strongly agree.
So, I love the opportunity to speak with our youth and everything. Some people say you guys are our future. I say you guys are our now, because you do have a voice. You should be heard, right? We're not talking about the future. You guys are important right here, right now. And, you got somebody old like me, and I could be stuck in my ways at 50 years old. It's hard to change, but we have to listen to you guys, because you guys are going to be up next real soon. You're going to help shape the way. So the police department needs to hear your voice. We need to know what your concerns are. We need to know how to work together continuously.
I really love DPD because, like, you relations, you guys really do, bond with the community. When I lived in California, they don't really bond with the community. Like, all they want to do is write tickets, pull you over. Like, no racism or nothing, but they don't bond with the community, none of that. I haven't seen no Explorers program in California, so I just really admire the DPD because you guys do make an effort to show that you guys are human and that you guys care about the community.
Right. And I don't want to get anyone confused, because there will be times where tickets need to be written, and arrests need to be made, but that's not really our first goal. Like, we're not trying to break a record for arrests and writing tickets. That's totally not what we're about, right? Although there may be times, like I said, and the whole purpose of even writing tickets is really to educate. It's not just for the purpose of making people pay money. That's really not what it is, because we want a safe environment. So if we can do that without issuing a citation, then that's an option. But again, Barbara, you said it well. We try to stay engaged. So thank you for that.
I want to just give the opportunity for any final thoughts. We've been going about 20, 25 minutes, which is really good. But just any final thoughts on bias, generally, any final thoughts on bias as relates to law enforcement and the communities they serve, before we wrap up. So just final thoughts from everybody.
I just want to say that the color of someone's skin or the uniform that they wear shouldn't determine the person they are. It's to know for yourself.
You just have to you have to take the facts. You can't just take, other people's opinions and then call it a fact. You actually have to learn more about it, and you shouldn't just base your opinions off of other people's.
And I would say, those are really great answers. I'll just kind of reiterate that is, it's very, very easy, especially as a young person, young adult, it's very easy to be influenced by one thing, because you guys are still learning a lot and you're soaking it all in. So just to get your information from one source and have that as your final opinion about everything is probably not the wisest thing to do. And you guys are leading the way right now by being here. So, don't be easily influenced, which could develop a very unfair bias towards a group of people, whether it's police and citizens or male, female, or whatever it may be. You have great minds. You should use your own mind to come up with your own opinion.
Thanks, Norwood, and thank you all, Elyse, Amarea, Barbara, for joining us on this conversation.